This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
We're going to start with episode 2 and including the second animated thing and just react to those and go into deep dive detail.
Yeah, we are here on YouTube to do a deep dive of episode 2. Yep. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. All right, so this is the animated short about the fall of Manetheren that we wanted to start with before we got into the second episode. Yes. So I will go ahead and bring that up. Is that a raven or an eagle? Because this is all about Manetheren.
I definitely assumed I was seeing like a crow or a raven, but just in the normal corvid sense, not in a Dark One's eyes sense.
Gotcha.
I didn't really think that much into it. I guess I should have. I was just like, wow, they bothered to animate a bird. That was an interesting choice.
So we have essentially the armies of Manetheren.
Yeah, we jump forward 1,000 years. So the last short was like, here's the breaking. And right. Like 1,000 years later, the world is full mess still, or again.
Again, yeah, this is technically the Trolloc Wars, right? That we're in.
Yeah. And this is Ishamael gets to come back every 1,000 years.
Right.
They're not telling us that yet, but they are saying, here's the important points in the world's time. It just happens to be every 1,000 years. Total coincidence. Yeah. Nothing going on there.
And then we get the shot of the King of Manetheren.
Yes, who Matt doesn't have a memory of being.
No, but he has a memory of fighting, I think.
Yeah, fighting this guy. He has a memory of, I think, fighting this guy and being a general under him.
I would have to go back and look that up, yeah.
Pretty sure that Matt has multiple memories of this guy from both sides of the conflict, but was not this guy.
Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
Or he doesn't get any of the memories of this guy. This guy did not go to the Tower of Genji, apparently.
And when we say this guy, we should really... King Aemon, right? Aemon's Field.
King Aemon. Yeah. Aemon's Field. Yeah. This guy, some random dude.
I know. I'm always like, wait, what's his name again? Oh, yeah, because he died in Aemon's Field. Like, it's such a ridiculous thing to forget. But yeah, I do sometimes.
How do you dial 911? What's the number for 911? It's kind of like that.
So yeah, just common sense. But I love he's got the eagle feathers, he's got the crown, he's very sort of hawk-like, I feel like, in his appearance. But we all know this
some mild Sean Bean vibes.
Yep. And I love that this was included, the story of Manetheren was included in the episode.
That has the Song of Manetheren.
So we get to hear this from both, we get to see the history of it, but then we also see the story of it.
Yeah.
We see the bridges burned to stop the Trolloc hordes from crossing.
Show, don't tell. And like, we're not surrendering, we're strategically retreating. Like, it's badass. But there's a lot of showing, not telling in that. There's very few words and a lot of imagery. And
it's the retreat, harass, kill as many as you can, delay, use a barrier to stop them. Like, there's a lot of techniques there that Matt takes up on. I love the shot of the opposing leader, the Murdraw with the headpiece. Like, I hope we see a real world version of that when they go from like hoods to battle. Like,
and then the horse has the same mask that we saw when they come out of the mist at Taran Ferry. You know, it's just like, so they don't change their style that much, right? This is 1,000+ years ago. This is 2,000 years ago. Fades haven't changed their style at all. Their horses still look the same. Like,
the hood is different, though. The hood is different. And I have to wonder if they put on a helmet. Because, like, they're always described as having a hood. This is this is a different take. Like, we've never seen them. And supposedly all Fades look exactly alike, down to even their clothing. Because even the clothing is a little bit shifted out of the pattern, like the way the Fades are. So, this is a different look for a Fade is a very interesting take on it. Even though the horses have the exact same faceplate. There's the battle, the Trollocs. We all know
like
about
that sequence.
Yeah, the 13 days.
Cool sequence.
It's a really great sequence of action. Animated, amazing. Like, the animation on here is amazing. And then Eldrine, which a lot of people think Egwene is a resurrected Eldrine.
Reborn Eldrine.
Yeah. I guess resurrected would be what the Dark One does.
Yeah, with the prior memories and the breaking of the cycle. Yeah, no, this would be another life of Egwene. Like that's her soul reborn is a common theory, and I don't have anything wrong with it. And this doesn't seem to disprove that theory in any way, shape, or form.
And also the way they focus on her face in the show when they're telling that story. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely made notes of that.
So he dies. We see the crown rise, taken by the Trollocs. And then, the destruction of Manetheren by Eldrine. I mean... Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
It's gorgeous. Look at the way that envelops her. And then coming down from the sky, and then just explosion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so pretty, and it's I'm so glad that they were able to keep that and depict it in the glory that it deserves to be depicted in, right? That would have been so hard to do live action, so easy to do in animation, so gorgeous.
No, I love that the history is told in animation, because so many, I've heard this argument over and over and over again that people are like, this would be better as an animated show because, the budget to these special effects is crazy. But this is a great way to show that history and sort of say, like, yes, this would be good animated, but it's even better live action.
Yeah.
And then you have to a modern day
the bird.
The bird
connects us.
Oh, good catch. Yes. Same.
Yeah, it's like the ecology is the same, right?
Yeah.
The political landscape changes, but the birds have always been here watching.
I like that. Yeah, I want to say it's just a normal hawk bird type situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, to the crown being discovered by somebody in the Two Rivers. Right,
which I think is absolute nonsense. No one's ever discovered a crown in the river, but it points to the fact that the army was destroyed, right? Because the story doesn't specifically say Eldrine destroys the whole army. She destroys her city. This is what lets you know that triumphant upright fist holding the crown was obliterated and the crown fell to the ground to be forgotten. Whether or not anyone in the Two Rivers ever found it is beside the point. This lets us know that victory was a few seconds long.
Yeah, and for all we know, he just dropped it right back in the river,
Right, or sold it to a peddler who was like, it's not real gold. Right.
Nice callback.
So these aren't gems.
Callback. So and that's the end of that. So that was a nice
very neat.
Very neat and well placed for episode 2, which I'll bring up here. So we open up with the White Cloak and...
Menace is dripping off of every piece of the cinematography and the details and this child's entire performance. It's just menace.
Oh, look at the background, though. The person holding the bowl walking in the background. Like, look at their shoulders, right? Like,
yeah, I really enjoyed watching particularly that tent in the background when I did my rewatch, because that's the kitchen. And it's these two White Cloaks working together and doing this kitchen stuff, and they hand the kid the plate and then they go back to doing their kitchen stuff. And then that one takes a bowl and walks off. And the background, they are having their own entire little mini scene happening there behind this kid just to make the scene complete and real. And I appreciate that attention to detail.
Now, I found the name of the bird. Let me see.
Oh my God, this bird dish. I meant to research this more and I didn't, and I feel ashamed for that. But this dish apparently is a real dish.
Yep.
It was actually banned in France because it's cruel, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're cooking songbirds. I don't know how cruel that is if you cook.
Yeah, I was confused about why that's particularly cruel. Like I said, I kind of forgot to do my research for this episode because I got distracted by watching bonus content.
There's so much content, guys.
I'm sorry. My brownness was distracted by the shiny. But it's a dish that has been banned in France. Oh, chat is saying that the part of the cruelty is that they blind the birds first so that they overeat.
Oh, it's one of those things where they stuff them really full so they're plump. Just the standard overstuffing of animals that we do to all sorts of terrible things.
Foie gras?
Makes them
What?
taste them. What? No. So yeah, this thing definitely existed. It definitely, the whole thing is like it's supposed to have the bones in it. It does cut your mouth a little bit. Like that's all factual, which is, I don't know about the blood running out of your mouth, but yeah.
Well, but it's Valda, so it is factual because that's very Valda. And it also just fits with the Inquisition hardline European Christian terror regimes that sort of swept the nation. Like to have it have this cruel dish from France, it just feels very throwing shade at the continent.
Oh gosh, that blood. And okay, you know what I truly love about this scene? The goblet.
Yeah, the goblet is a really cool object to track through this scene.
There we go. The goblet, because it really is showing how distorted Valda, what he's seeing. Sorry, not Valda. Valda. What Valda's seeing is a distorted reality, right? Like the goblet shows his view of reality, which is all twisted and weird and warped, and isn't the reality that you and I see. That this sort of the brutality through kindness is this weird, odd, circular vision of what reality is. And like,
I hadn't thought of it like that. I love that interpretation. He is warped.
Yep.
The order that he represents is warped. Everything happening here is warped. So in addition to all the white cloth clearly means bad guys, we've also got this and their worldview is distorted fundamentally. Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm. I just enjoyed it for its visual impact on getting to watch the progression of the pyre.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it in its more allegorical context.
And just how blood-like that wine is.
Yeah, I did notice that. He's got blood red wine.
What do you think about the switch from making him just a competitor of Pedron Niles in the White Cloaks to a questioner? Because Asanawa was the questioner, Valda was not.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Do you think
I think they're getting rid of Asanawa entirely. I think they're melding all of the bad questioner minor characters into Valda and making him the head of the questioners. That makes so much more sense to me because the questioners are really the bulk of the opposition to the larger body of the children, who are represented by Bornhald at first, because he's who we meet first, and then Niall. This is the other guys within that organization. It makes so much sense to me to just have Valda be a questioner. And I mean, how was he not a questioner? Well, okay, I know why he wasn't a questioner, because he's also a war hero and he believes in fighting rather than torturing per se. But I think it makes total sense. Yeah.
But essentially, this is Asanawa and Valda, together, as far as I can tell. The questioner who's also, leading and doing all the things that Valda did.
But clearly much more Valda, because he's definitely going to lie in a way that Asunawa never would.
Sure. Yeah,
Asunawa has that weird obsession with the truth. Like, this is Valda just with the position of Asunawa melded in.
I haven't heard him lie yet. I mean, I think in his worldview, he's a very honest man, because he has no reason to be deceitful.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
So that leads to some true brutality of this woman, one of the Yellow Aja. Her hands are
definitely not Chesmal Emery, I would guess.
Fuck I
doubt that this is fucking Chesmal Emery.
Certainly no clues as to who this Yellow is, or if it's a named Yellow, just could be any Aes Sedai, one of her sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that there's the woman with the forkroot tea is right on the border of Amadicia. We know that she dealt with a lot of yellows. There's so many reasons why there could be a yellow in their clutches. Yeah. But the important thing here is that she's been beat up and had her hands both removed.
Right.
And then Valda does this extremely unnecessary thing where he cuts her hands off, sits at his table, eats a bird, comes back over to extract her ring, and then goes back over to the table to have his wine. It's a very mustache twirling villain.
I assume he didn't cut her hands off. I assume his minions did, and he watched it because he doesn't have any blood on his hands. before he walks over there. So someone else cut her hands off and left them on the stump and tied her up, and then he walked over there just to pull the ring off and collect it.
Yeah. He doesn't set the fire either. Someone else sets the fire.
Someone else sets the fire. That's already set.
But nobody else is watching. The whole thing is entirely for his entertainment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sure, minions come and go. Like, he's just commanding them. Like just like the boy.
So nonplussed.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh God, he's not even doing his own violence.
Yeah, so we see both hands on the stump. The axe has been used, is just now in the stump there on the side. So I think this blood on her forehead here that's running down the side, that could be explained possibly why she can't channel, right? Sometimes a head wound does, cause people to be unable to channel. Fork root might be the other explanation.
I've always thought it was a weird hole that fork root isn't known until halfway through the series. This is more logical if the questioners or if the White Cloaks have a monopoly on the one herb that can take down Aes Sedai.
And doesn't that make sense that the questioners with the herbs and poisons would figure out something like fork root?
Yeah,
because
it totally does. Especially with they have informants and it just the whole concept that one woman in the whole world knows this herb, it never sat right to me. So this would be a sense of me feeling like Rafe has fixed a hole in the world if they have fork root. Yeah, same with the Shan Chan. They should have it too.
A Harry Potterism. It's one of those things that drops in halfway through the series, and you're like, wait, where did that come from, and why? You didn't mention that at all, and it would have been totally relevant, right, to all the other books.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
The other interesting thing here is this thing he says to her that implies world building. I really want more context of you Aes Sedai above all others should know that cruelty is sometimes mercy or something, whatever it is he says here.
Oh, I assume he's talking about the gentling of men who can channel.
How did I not think of that? Okay. Well, shit, that was a simple question. Simple answer. Okay.
I love it when one of us can do that for the other one. That's my favorite thing. I love this thing. You're like, wait, why? We see he's got the collection of rings, a couple of yellows, a green. Looks like
there's
a yellow
7.
green.
This is the 7th.
Oh wow.
Moraine says that later. That 7 now. Because he's notorious. He is a singularly notorious White Cloak. And then we get the opening sequence.
The opening sequence, which I was actually very disappointed the first weekend because I didn't see the opening sequence. And so I didn't get to see it until the show came out, and it is gorgeous.
Yeah. It's amazing. I love it so much.
It reminds me of the
Westworld
Westworld opening. Yeah. So
I haven't never seen Westworld, but
okay. The opening is worth watching, just for the comparison, I think. Because it's very cinematic and at the same time abstract that then rolls into reality.
Nice.
But I love the way they're basically implying the building of the pattern through the threads.
Yeah, and I like how it starts with a single point. Everything, it's very much like Big Bang kind of feeling. Mm-hmm. Right? It's total darkness, and then there's one point, and then shit just starts falling apart, which actually makes a big pattern of complex differentiated matter and energy, and it just mwah, mwah. Love it.
This feels very bale-firing the pattern to me right now. It's just threading and falling apart.
Or drilling the bore.
Yes. Oh,
this is what it was like for the Dark One. Just locked up, and then the bore gets drilled. It's
oh, then he has access to the pattern. That's cool. I like that. That this is from the Dark One's perspective. Love it. But yeah, we get right down to there's just one thread left that doesn't quite break. Oh, and then it cuts. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. The tension there is real.
Ooh, yeah. And the music is so good. Oh my God. Just inject this music into my eyeballs 24/7, please.
Veins of Gold, anybody?
Yosha!
Yeah.
Gold lightning patterns, which are way more jagged than any of the other string patterns we see in this.
No, it doesn't look like channeling to me at all. These are threads, which are different than channeling by far. It's a totally different feeling.
Yeah,
But yes, so good there.
And then it becomes more flowy.
Yeah. A little pattern-like,
It becomes like hairs, like roots. And then it starts getting woven into a structure.
Right.
It starts in pure chaos, and then it starts to get onto a warp and a weft.
Warp and a weave of the...
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I like the idea that this is on a loom, and this is the weaving of the pattern that we're seeing. You know, this is
raw reality getting pushed into structure.
Kind of what I imagine Rand seeing during the last battle.
Yeah, totally. The way that he takes the threads of reality and makes things, this is that space. It mellows out. It becomes orderly, trying to pull back and see all of how people's lives fit into historical patterns.
And this to me looks like actual embroidery now, right? This is something that we're seeing.
The tapestry of ages.
And all of a sudden that goes from just threads and abstract to something very, very real.
Textiles.
Yep. And can we talk about the colors? Green, blue, gold, yellow. I mean, these are the Aja colors, which obviously, as we'll see, is what we're creating.
I love the blue ones just plunging down. It's like, I know that that's a cheap, easy shot, and I fucking love it anyway.
Executive producer, Harriet McDougal.
Yes, which is just like,
fantastic.
Yay.
Good.
And Brandon Sanderson's involved.
Right.
Good. Who do you think this is? I'm convinced every face is somebody.
Okay, so I'm not. I'll get rid of me so you can see the face a little bit better. Yeah, I mean, are you going with, obviously, Blue Aja?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of them are Aes Sedai. I think some of them could be historical figures of note that are not channelers. Okay. Possibly. Like rulers, like Ishara, maybe, or something like that. But I think these are people who could be considered saints in the sense that they have very long historical shadows across the world, not necessarily current characters.
Fair enough. What do you think about the loom itself?
I wish we could get more shots of it, and I wish it was a little bit not as cheap of CGI looking.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
But this sequence is going to be dated in a matter of like 30 seconds, no matter how much money they spend on it. So I'm content with the fact that they clearly like made some budgetary choices to invest in other things more than this. I'm fine with that, but I love it. And that's got to be Min.
You think that's Min?
It has to be. It's the only person who is actively being created out of the threads before they get woven into the fabric. She sees it. She is more involved in the pattern than other people.
Okay, yeah.
On the other hand, Min was cast, and this only vaguely looks like her.
Yeah.
I attribute that to the medium rather than to it not being her. But
I see with the red. I see maybe like a famous red sister, historical red sister.
Like Bonwyn, maybe?
Yeah, like Bonwyn, something like that. Yeah.
She just has such a unique position of all the characters that are in this. I don't know. And it also just gives me like, I see that the threads are all warping out around her in the pattern. Like there's straight threads, but they're drawing like, oh, I have so many questions. Who are you?
There's somebody there.
It looks like Moraine to me, but that's definitely the impact of a Taviran on the weave. To me, that's what that is. It's either a Taviran or it's a person who can channel because they touch the essential nature of reality and thus are warping things. But weave. My first thought is Taviran. Someone like Rand or Egwene. Because
I mean, Tuon's the first thought, but again, I don't think...
My second thought is Ishara.
Okay.
Because she's really critical to the nation that this whole thing starts in, and she casts a very long shadow history, more than many of the rulers that we hear about. So my bet is on Ishara.
Oh, I like the idea that someone suggested the explosion was Moraine using balefire, and that was what that whole thing was.
Yeah, but I just love how this woman looks like so many pictures I've seen of like Ethiopian Christian saints from like way the fuck back when. Like, it's got, it actually looks to me like an African goddess or saint in a very like contemporary, not contemporary, but a very appropriate way. But I don't think it's 2-1 because it's too much hair.
In white, Lanfear.
Yeah, I totally want to think Forsaken,
Selene or something
for
like
some
that.
of this,
Yeah.
but then that has our Ethiopian goddess over to the side.
I mean,
So-
Semirog.
No, Semirog's the one in green
Oh, okay.
because she looks like the I think Edsel Arnold drawing. This
one-
looks vaguely like Logain, but it's clearly not.
I can say this is a brown
I
sister.
don't know who.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's all Amerlins. Maybe these are all Amerlins.
That was my thought. Is these are all former Amelins of various colors that have been venerated and like had influence on the pattern. Because they all seem to be channelers to me. They all seem to be women of power.
Yeah,
They all
the
have an
explosion
odd
out
job.
around the head is very divine.
Also patterns, right? If they're channeling, that's what it would look like around them. And how would you stylize that? You create those sort of patterns. They're not halos, they're women channeling.
Right. It is described as a halo around them when other women can see it. So
you think that's
that's got to be Semirog because that looks like fan art that's been made of Semirog. So she's Semirog until I hear otherwise.
And that just gorgeous.
Oh, it's so pretty. Did you ever watch The Page Master?
No.
Oh, weird movie. But there's a scene where a big mural like that melts and dissolves, and that's when the world goes from live action to cartoon action. This reminds me of The Page Master when the ceiling melts.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to look for maybe like seasons. Like maybe we've got winter here, and then it goes to like summer on the other side, and like spring sort of in the top, and fall
it can't
down
be
below.
Because it can't be the Ajas because there's only there's 7.
No, 7. Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, so it is the Ajas. So it's got to be Amerlins or highly influential sisters across 3,000 years of history.
Right. Starting with you, you've
I
got
wanted her
red,
to be
white,
Semirog.
yellow, blue,
Brown,
green, gray.
Yeah. All right. Fine. Amerlins. Whatever.
And then I love the way
everything.
they tangled together to that symbol in the middle that becomes the floor of the White Tower. Like that's why this is all about the White Tower. Like this is all about the like. It's got to be the Amerlins to me.
Mm-hmm. But then they'll get blown away. Because if you use Balefire, the whole thing can be wrecked.
And then the way the threads come together to form the dragon that is the Wheel of Time, like all of that, just fantastic. Really, really good. Love that opening sequence. Really like what they did with it. I'm glad they didn't go for the map stereotype. As much as I love the map, we've seen it in Moraine's hands. They'll show us the map. It's not like the map doesn't exist.
They got extras on the website.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, we don't need that to be the opening sequence. So I'm glad they resisted that.
Yeah, yeah, big time.
Mm-hmm. But and I like the theme of the pattern. Interesting that the pattern becomes the White Tower. That to me, but they are sort of making the White Tower central.
There's that saying that the White Tower is the center of the world that the wheel is spinning around. I think Elida thinks at one point that like it's like the spindle of the weaving. Like the world revolves around the White Tower. The White Tower is central to everything. And that is a conceit, but it's a conceit that they all hold. So.
Right. I think it's that the White Tower is the center of the world, and the Tarvalon's at the center of the world, and the tower is at the center of Tarvalon, and the world spins around Tarvalon.
Yeah, that.
So, yeah.
Which, I mean, it's right next to Dragonmount, so almost. Not wrong.
Yeah. I mean, we're all the center of our observable universe, right? Like...
It is true.
Yep.
It is true. Even on a scale, we are right in the middle of the scale of things we can see as humans, from the intergalactic to the subatomic. We are smack in the middle of the scale. Is that an accident, or is that a bias of our perspective?
I don't know if I'd put us right in the middle of it.
I read a very compelling book that was the entire thesis, so I've been operating with that as a decent assumption.
I guess how do you create a maximum size?
I read the book years and years ago. That was just the central thesis of the entire book. So I've only kept the cliff notes.
What? Okay, in 5 seconds or less, give me the entire book. Here we go. Ready? Go.
God! Okay. Not really, but you asked me to summarize really intense stuff. Okay, we're going to stay focused.
Yeah, no, we're not. But here we are. We are in the fleeing of the two rivers, right? They're fleeing along the river from the Trollocs, which we ended the last episode with.
Yes, and it's a very critical part of the Eye of the World leaving the Shire sequence. Is the running down the river. Also, it gives us more chances to look at the beautiful mountains of mist and the White River and all the stuff that they're leaving. So that's nice. I feel like they spent a lot of time on montaging what horses running through water at too tight of a focus looks like. I feel like they spent a few too many seconds on that.
That's fair.
But I like the panning shots of the mountains, so...
That's really what it was. It was like establishing shot, remember what happened in the last one, give you a second to breathe. Who are these characters, right? I'm just surprised one of them didn't say, if I take one more step, this will be the furthest I've been from the two rivers.
It's like a total ripoff of Lord of the Rings, dude.
So we see the Trollocs have no problem crossing shallow water, and they are pretty close behind.
And we get the horns and the roars. I liked the war horns. That was an important piece of tension to bring forward from the books.
And this is definitely we don't know how long they're on the road. We assume the entire day, right? If they leave first thing in the morning, they haven't gotten any sleep, right? So they leave first thing. They fought all night. They leave first thing in the morning. They're riding all day. They get to Shadow Logith shortly before nighttime. You
mean Tarn Ferry? Because that's where we are.
Yes, Tarn Ferry shortly before, or shortly after nighttime, I would assume.
Well, this is well into nighttime, but I'll forgive them because movie shoots are hard to time to the sun.
Well, yeah, it's easier to just be like, oh, it's after dark.
Yeah, and it's nighttime.
But that gives us a sense that they've been just riding hard all day.
Yeah. Without making us drag through it for 20 minutes, which is fun.
And this is where Moraine's shoulder's been getting worse. This is a day later now since she's got stabbed. 24 hours, and she's starting to feel it a little bit, hopefully. So yeah, Terran, we don't see the city of Terran. We go straight to the dock or the ferry. Yeah, which is, for budgetary reasons, for a set, makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Later they're like, a bunch of villagers were killed up in Terran Ferry. Moraine says that to the White Cloak, and I'm like, what were they? I mean, you assume that.
Yeah, she assumes it because she knows that the sun was coming down to the ferry and there's no way he would have escaped and they're as good as dead. It's a fair assumption. It's stretching the 3 O's, but a lot of people did die in another village that isn't the one she named. So you put those sentences together. But yeah, she just bullies the man into taking them across. It's a very quick conversation, quick experience. There's no tension with getting on the ferry as everyone, I liked that they didn't have us watch them get on the ferry for 15 minutes. They just are on the ferry. Thank you. I also
he didn't have to go gather up people to haul. They're like, yeah, we got 3 strong guys. They'll pull, Perrin will pull us across. He's fine.
Yeah, Perrin alone has got it.
Right. So no problem with that. Getting him up and going.
I love his line, you're not a woman who takes no. It's no. And then Rand, of course, yells no at her repeatedly in this episode. It's Rand.
And she is nursing her arm there.
Yeah. She's already looking pale. She's holding her arm. She's moving a little bit stiffly and tenderly. Yeah.
So they get on, and very quickly the Trollocs swarm up behind them.
Yeah. And barely halfway across the river, and they show up.
So, I mean, they must have just had time to get on. I mean, it takes them a little while to get on, so assume that was time for them. But just shows how close the Trollocs have been all day, the entire time. They have barely been ahead of these guys. And that leads to what I thought this is one of the most iconic sort of marketing images, which is them going nuts. We see the Trolloc fall. We skip that part, but the Trolloc falls and drowns, which I thought was, that's why they don't cross deep water. They sink like a freaking rock.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the pattern is like, no, you're going to be completely like, you have a buff on strength and brutality, but like water, no.
Have you tried treading water with hooves? Not great.
I mean, I have with flippers, and that worked fine. I don't see what their problem is.
Also, the armor and just the general fear, like panic will drown you faster than anything else.
It's true. It's true. Those big ass horns. Yeah.
But then, we get the fade that rides out.
Yeah. Oh, God. It's such classic fantasy horror.
And
so good.
That was like our first shot of the fade right there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With that bright light there, like this is what we first saw. The horse is terrifying. Yeah. Like, this is such a great image. Someone made a joke though, like, did Trollocs just not have bows and arrows? And it doesn't look like it. Like, to be perfectly honest, like, I think they took that out. Or at least this group certainly doesn't have any archers with it. Like, there's no archer attacks. They threw axes, they threw the knives, but there were no bow and arrows.
They're really good at throwing shit, but projectiles less so, I guess. Well, I guess no, you are projecting a thrown object. Yeah. And then Moraine just freaking meets its eyes, and Lan is just staring them down, and it's like this terrifying horde with just, like you're saying, all these details put in to just make them the scariest thing, and they're just looking at it like, fuck around and find out. Like, and they're not in a position to actually make that threat, but like they're just so stoic.
And then we get this change, which is him jumping in and trying to rescue the boat, or I don't know, do what, like get back across. It's
really dumb. He shouldn't have jumped in. At that point, it was a doomed thing. Though, did you notice that she stops channeling the second he throws himself into the river? Mm. She pulls her arm up and the leaves dissipate and she looks disappointed. But she can't channel once he's in the water.
It's not as quick as it looks, but I think she's pretty much done at that point.
Well, I think she's done, but I think that she's physically, like, I think the oaths make her stop once he gets in the river. I think she's physically forced by the oaths to not channel anymore. She's already set the process in motion and it's going to go through anyway. And that's why she's so sad, is because she's like, well, the oath stopped me, but it didn't. Like, I've killed a man effectively.
Yeah, I think she's just sad that he's obviously going to kill himself. Like, she's not, like, excited that this man is going to die. Yeah.
No, she's like, fuck. You know, like, I did everything I could, and the oaths are even stopping me, but it's too late.
Someone did point out, like, why didn't she just, like, restrain him with the air for a second? Well, because it went really fast, I think, and she was focusing on pulling the ferry down before he could go out to it, and she probably figured if it's a lost cause, there's no way he's going to jump out there. Also, she's tired and probably only has enough energy. It takes a lot of energy to create that whirlpool. It's probably a lot of
and
effort.
She's getting sick and hasn't slept, and she did everything she could to save him within her capacity, and he was just a dumbass.
That does look really cool, though.
It just looks so cool.
That, like, whirlpoolness, that's a lot. It looks like it's a much bigger body of water.
Yeah, I don't think a river is likely to form that. Like, there's physics involved with how deep that can physically get. I mean, that's got to be a hell of a deep river.
It is supposed to be a deep river, but yeah.
Yeah. But whatever, it's
there's
awesome.
There's magic involved. It looks really cool, too. Yeah. The thing is, the physics of the whirlpool don't have to work because she can, like, cause it to, like work in a way that it wouldn't normally, because you can create pressures that wouldn't normally exist in that sort of water.
And then Rand and Lan have their first stare off, which is just like, oh, you guys are going to be such good buddies. But they are,
like, how can you
stony on stony.
Yep. And Lan's basically saying, you have no idea, right? Like, I have to support her.
Wonderful music. And then this very cool set.
Yeah. And this would be the first night they've slept. This would be the second night.
The second night on the road, first night they've slept. Yeah. And this is this is the stop about a week in, I think. In the book, it's about a week into their trip. There's more nights that go by before they get to this particular location where these particular conversations happen. But in this, it's just the next night.
And this is still in the books before Nynaeve caught up with them.
Yes.
Because she doesn't catch up until... She's definitely after Taryn Ferry, but before Shadow Logoth.
Yeah. She catches up in Barrelon.
Oh, right, because Barrelon's between those two, which we did not do in this one.
Right, we have Bean Spring instead.
Yeah, and we don't get anything with Min, so...
Right.
Interesting that Min wasn't introduced in Bean Spring either, so which is where I thought she'd be.
I think she's going to be either in Tar Valon or in Camelin.
Yeah. Tar Valon would be my guess, because I don't think we're going to Camelin.
Is she in season 1 for sure?
Yeah.
Okay, well then it's going to definitely be Tar Valon. She'll have already been drugged there by the Aes Sedai's interest in her talent. They'll just have that have happened off screen before the story started.
Right. She probably already knows Moiraine or something like that.
Exactly. Maybe that's how she knows rumors of WoT TV.
This is Moiraine doing the washing away the weariness from the horses one at a time. And if you'll notice, the one on the right appears to be the shaggiest, and I believe that's Bella. Right? She's got the shaggy, forehead.
No, Bella's brown. These are all black horses.
You don't think that's Bella?
No.
Okay.
I'm not that good with horses, but that's a black horse, and Bella's brown. She's dark chestnut.
I was going to say that maybe that horse didn't need... maybe that was Rand's horse that didn't need to have its weariness washed away.
Yeah, I was wondering about her leaving that one, but I think it's just Lan telling her to go to bed.
Okay.
I love their body language in that. It again speaks to the fact that they've been doing this for 20 years. Yep. Like, they barely need words to say anything.
Well, and the amount of work he does, he moves her cloak behind her. He lifts up the rope. He always makes sure her path is clear of obstacles when she has to move. Yeah, there's a certain sweetness there. And
then Matt talks about Nynaeve and what she'd be doing if she was there, which is wonderful. Coming from Matt, of all people. Making
Moraine's life hell. And you're like, yeah, that's what she did in the books.
Accurate. She will. Yep. She will be.
And I feel like that is a book reference, right? That's like, yes, we know that we're switching up the timelines a little bit, and Nynaeve would have been here during this part, but, she got dragged away, so we're not...
Yeah, imagine if Nynaeve were here, in the books.
Right,
that's
exactly.
the subtext. Yeah.
And yeah, that I think is who even knows what the truth is something he says. They're debating whether Moiraine is basically a savior or not. And I think the death of Hightower sort of is supposed to bring that into stark contrast, but they don't really even bring that up. Because it is an accident. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I get some strong, I can't tell what's the truth, reputable information or random shit I read on the internet. Gee, I don't know.
Okay, Godwin,
that's the energy I get from... Yeah, it's got some not critical thinking skills. And Egwene calls that out and is like, look at the evidence. This woman has saved our asses repeatedly. All she had to do to let us die was not interfere. Stop being a dumbass.
And then he throws, well, what did she promise you? And you can channel now? You already went for wisdom. And yeah, there's that. It's book accurate to Rand's dumbassery.
It is. And I love how much that conversation is reversed in his perspective once he learns he can channel. In the books, it's what he's saying to her is all the shit that she does to him or says to him at the end of book 1 and the beginning of book 2 as she's trying to come to terms with it. It's flip who's saying what, and that's the dynamic. And it's gonna hurt so good when he learns he can channel and he looks at her and we can remember this conversation.
Yes,
it's gonna hurt so good.
Babe, make it hurt. So they go to sleep in this. What appears to be a home carved out of a cave?
It looks like a really old ruin, maybe, or a home carved in. But yeah, there's distinct windows, doors, hallways. This is a long abandoned site that humans lived in to some extent.
Or Ogier. No.
It's very small for Ogier, unless they've made Ogier. But they've made Ogier tiny.
We'll see. I'm not going to comment on that, even though the video is in the thing, but... That one image did not make me super happy with Loyal's appearance, so we'll see how they pull that off. Loyal's he's such a delicate subject. He's hard to handle.
We'll see when we get there, I guess.
Yeah. But what this sets up is the dreams and Teleron Riyadh.
Well, first, this sets up the conversation between Moraine and Egwene.
Yes, yeah, when they wake up in the middle of the night. And Rand witnesses Egwene get up and leave, and that is where but he doesn't listen in.
Right, which is the difference.
Because in the books, this is how Moraine tells him basically what it's like to channel and learn to channel. This is where he gets all that information. He overhears like 1 in 4 go die by trying. If you channel, then you can go crazy. There's weird side effects, and they get closer and closer to the moment of channeling until they go away, and then you have a countdown. Like all of that info drop about what happens as a channeler without training, it happens in this scene, and that's how Rand gets it. So we don't know any of that at this point. So we have to assume there's going to be some info drop about like if you learn to channel without aid, you'll probably die. But I don't think we heard that here.
No, we don't get any of that here about women mysteriously dying. We just get the oaths and the concept of listening to the wind and channeling being the same thing, and a lot of the basic mechanics without all that extra world building. Yep. The extra world building is going to have to come later.
I love the wind listens to you line. Fantastic.
Oh, God. Jordan, how did you not write that line yourself?
Right. And she also gives the line, like, the truth you hears may not be the truth you think you hear.
I love that she's the one info dropping how to be careful around Aes Sedai. Yeah. She's like, let me just tell on all of our secrets.
Well, I think it's because she's starting to train Egwene on how to be Aes Sedai.
Exactly. She's like, you're going to be one of us, so you're going to need to know.
So it's not revealing those secrets to anyone who's not going to be Aes Sedai. So I think that's why it's very clever that she's revealing it to Egwene herself and not necessarily to like Rand or anybody else.
Right, she could be giving like a master class on this to everyone, but no.
You follow me. We're going to go out in the woods and have a talk.
Yeah. Also, like, does Lan approve of you wandering around in the woods at night?
I assume you should be sleeping. Watching.
Probably.
Yeah. She pulls out her Kai'Sain,
which she seems to give to Egwene at the end. She wraps her hand around it.
I didn't even notice that.
Also, did you notice she has nail polish on?
Right? Oh, yeah.
Look.
Like, it's that light blue. That's really cute.
She's distinctly wearing nail polish.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, I can pick up that she's got a pedicure. That's like, Moraine wears nail polish. Nail polish is a thing. I like that. I also like that it's a really light blue. It's like, you do not stop with the blue.
No, she really
ever.
doesn't. And the pendant, I think that's a great shot of the pendant for cosplayers. Get your...
Shut up and take my money.
Start buying. We just got the announcement that
Badai,
jewelry.
Badali, I didn't remember how to say it.
Don't know.
The jewelry people.
The jewelry people who used to do all the Aes Sedai rings and stuff got the contract back again. So that's great, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to buy, hopefully, a bunch of this jewelry and the rings, and I've looked in. They do a bunch of Sanderson stuff and just like gold.
Oh yeah, they do all kinds of fantasy things.
Yeah.
They do Lord of the Rings stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, they do lots of stuff. I'm so glad that they got their contract back, and I'm hoping that is the first of many of our favorite people who used to have contracts getting reinstated. Amazon.
We get the 3 flashes.
Yep, that sequence is very, very true to the book.
Yeah, very true to the book.
I also love that she uses river analogies that describe exactly the women's circle ceremony that she went through. Like, by coincidence, that's the novice exercise that she picks. And it's like, oh, look, like she was literally trained to be ready for this instruction.
Yeah. So you can see one coming from Moraine's hand, of each of her hands, and then the one coming from Egwene. That there's 3 flows.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I mean, I noticed the weaves. I didn't notice the placement in that specific kind of way.
But yeah, they're all mixing together, yeah.
So cool. It's also faintly bluish. Like the light isn't just white. It becomes very blue, like the color of the stone.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see that maybe as we learn more, maybe as Egwene learns more, we see the colors come out of the channeling a little bit more. That maybe
I have thought that.
Yeah, as a raw channeler, we're just seeing that. But It's very subtle, but yeah, I'm not sure if that blue is blue or the blue light from the stone, because the stone's illuminated. So I think that's just the blue light of the stone illuminating the channeling flows more so than the flows being blue.
I'm hopeful that the flows are blue, but I don't fully expect it. It's a little pet hope that I'm keeping alive.
Yeah, I'm still hoping for colored weaves as they get more experienced. Let's go to the next scene, which is she comes back and lays down to Rand for comfort.
It hurts. It's so sad. He rolls towards her, then she goes to like smell him, and then he's like, "Go away! I'm pouting." It's just.
They're both young kids far away from home, looking for comfort, but he's also. You know, she broke up with him, right? Like, she broke up with him, and then the world ended the next day. Like, I know breaking up feels like the world ending, but like he's kind of upset about that. He's like, no, you made your choice. You walked away from this relationship. Like, you chose being a wisdom over us. And, like, that's fine.
And she's like, but now the world's ending.
Yeah, and he's like, too bad. You made your choice.
And then he gets over it the next afternoon because he's a child and his emotions are like a bouncy ball.
Just play with them. Steal them away.
Yeah, I like that they're making this relationship really believable. If they're going to lean into the romance of these two and make it a change from the books, do it right, they're doing it right.
And I also like the way it's falling apart, right? It's a very believable relationship that is not going to survive, right? And I think that maybe new viewers will look at this and be like, oh, maybe it's a will they, won't they, and they'll get together. And everyone's like, no, it's a won't they. Nope.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very sweet. They have the conversation. Then she goes to sit next to Perrin,
who's still up by the fire, brooding and being infected.
Yes. Also, when did he get that scratch? Was it during
the battle?
Yeah, during the battle.
I don't remember exactly when in the sequence, but it is clearly something he's just hiding. The way he's hiding the pain of having killed his wife, he's hiding the fact that he's got an infected scratch from a Trolloc on his leg.
Gosh, could there be a parallel there? Could he be physically showing his mental wound on the outside and have the infection last and get through him and cause problems long term? No.
Yeah, is this remotely allegorical? No.
Nah. I'm willing to bet that there's some interaction with the Tinkers where they both deal with his wound and his emotional problems.
If they don't both get healed to some extent at the same time, I will be very disappointed in their writers.
Yeah, and I agree that some people are saying with the ring, by the way, that it's not what they picture in the books, and I agree. It's not what was described in the books, but No,
the original rings that were produced by Badai Jewelry were accurate to the books. And I have one, and I'm very glad that I bought one before they stopped being the thing.
But there's something else now, and for reasons I'm fine with. And to be honest, they are growing on me. Like, once I got over just how big they are, I was like, oh, they're actually... I like what they do in terms of being able to identify the Aja of an Aes Sedai. Not that we ever have any problem, because they always wear their colors.
But yeah, they talk. This is the beginning of the Perrin and Egwene connection that is in the book so much, where like they get spun off on a side quest, and like we think maybe there's some more backstory with them that we're going to get with the Lila thing. But as far as the book version of them, this is that brother sister adventurer kind of energy starting to happen.
And then do you ever think we'll go back home? No.
Yeah, and then there's not a big action sequence of scary things, and she just says no all in one straight shot, and it's very confusing.
Well, and what's funny is he's saying, do you think we'll ever go back home? And she's saying absolutely not. He will and she won't.
Well, but he also means back to the way things were.
Oh, yeah. Well,
which is, both of them are more than Matt and Rand. Both of them are never going to be able to go back. Because she has learned she can channel, and he's killed his wife. Like, there's something that they can never turn back. That the other two haven't crossed that line yet.
Good point.
And the new origins of the Oaths, just to go back to the Oaths, like the fact that they're a slightly different position in the history, I'm fine with.
Oh, yeah.
That works totally fine.
They sort of do it in the 1,000 years before Arthur Hawkwing, but it's like, oh, we wanted people to trust us. But as a response to Arthur Hawkwing, that works great.
Same motivation,
Yeah.
same reasons, and it's virtually the same oaths minus some, updating of the language to make sense.
And also, I love it because it makes the oaths a result of Ishamael's actions, which just makes them all that much more suspect.
Right, which we've always had canon that was true. Now it's just more canonically true. That's fine. That's good. It's like they listen to us.
Listen, when rescuing Perrin and Egwene from the White Cloaks, there is a point where Nynaeve strikes with lightning before Moraine does. I'm calling it. They've listened to WoT Spoilers podcast. If Nynaeve strikes first, I'm going to be like, nope, that's a nod. That's got to be a nod. I don't care whether it is or not, but so that's I'm calling that right now. If Nynaeve strikes first, I'm going to say somebody in production listens to WoT Spoilers.
I like it. But we should move on to this dream.
This dream sequence, which is, I tried to make this all about the dream as soon as we got here because I was so excited about it.
Yeah. Which, remember how earlier I said that soundscapes are how you know where you are?
Yeah.
The second this shot comes on and it's a flat, silent soundscape, that's how you know it's a dream. There's no sound.
You can hear him breathing, and that's it. I've got it playing now.
It's like he's... Yeah.
There's no music.
There's no wind. There's no crickets. There's no horses. It's a close room. You can hear that it is a small space that the audio is in because we're all in his head.
Yep.
It's all in his head. Oh, it's so good.
And then this just...
And the echoing, the echo sound doesn't fit with being outside.
So, when I was younger... I lived in Virginia, and we had a cockroach problem. And also, as a kid, I drank Coke like it was water because it was the 90s, and that's what we did. My mom I literally had a mini fridge full of Coke in my room. So I opened a Coke, drank it, about half of it, set it on the nightstand, and went to bed. Woke up the next morning. I don't like
where the story's going.
Got up, grabbed that can of Coke after I'd been sitting out on my bedside for 8 hours, took a big chug out of it and felt something in the back of my throat. And I pulled out a half a cockroach. Not sure what happened to the other half. Pretty sure I swallowed it. Very similar coughing, very similar sequence. This brought me right back to that, and that was miserable. So yes, this is gross. This is very gross. Okay, Radio, you're safe.
I unfortunately could hear the entire story through my headphones, but I was able to physically remove myself from the disgustingness of it slightly. That's not okay.
Can I tell you something? Coke dissolves cockroach.
Well, it supposedly can dissolve literally everything, so I suppose even cockroaches can't stand up to Coke.
Okay, so anyway, he pulls a bat out of his throat, which is
so
gross.
horrifying.
Yeah.
So horrifying. Oh, I love that Balsamund does something this disgusting.
And we get from Matt that Matt gets the feeling that someone was holding them and cracking their necks. We don't get that from this. Or I think it's we learn before that they have different dreams. The boys are having sometimes the same dream and sometimes different dreams. And I think that's what we're getting here is that he's in all their dreams, but it's manifesting in slightly different ways because he's not putting them all in the same dream. And here we get our first shot of Balsamund.
He looks like a Doctor Who fucking monster.
All right, you know who he looks like to me? The Frankenstein analog character in Nightmare Before Christmas with the duck face and in the wheelchair.
Oh, yeah. I forget his name, but yeah. No, he makes me think of the Doctor Who monsters that you forget about as soon as you look at them. It reminds me of those. And then also just any creature made of char from any movie that has volcano monsters.
Right. Yeah, it's clearly he's been burned, right? Like his...
The Silence. Thank you, Satanis in chat. The Silence. That's who it was.
This Ishamael has been through the flames, and his skin is permanently burned from the true power. The Ashamael that we saw in the books is a normal-looking man until his eyes turn until he embraces the true power. This is not that. This is the one who gets burned at the end of book 1.
Yeah.
And is healing during all of book 2.
Yeah.
With his burned skin and everything. So.
Which, at first, I was like, why does this character look so weird? And then I was like, oh, it's because he's burned all over. Mm-hmm. Interesting choice, but I can live with it. That makes his fiery, menacing scariness more overt. Which,
right.
Logical.
But you're right, he has a little CG. This first shot was a little CGI weirdness to me. I liked him better in Perrin's Dream than I did in this one. But really close up on the eyes, you get the full face. Yeah. You see in detail the whole face, and that wakes him up.
Yeah. And then I wasn't sure if this was going to be a dream or not because he sees the bats, and I was like, are we going to do like stacked dreams? Because we get that in the books. The soundscape was about normal, but I wasn't sure at first.
They thought he was going to wake up into a dream and it would still be a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. The dream within a dream sequence is always throws me off, and it's like they wake up and then they wake up again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which isn't what happens here in the end.
No.
Could have been.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good shot of that sort of there's multiple homes here. We see it's a whole.
Yeah, it's almost like a pueblo kind of dwelling.
But clearly, I think that's what, sandstone?
Probably, yeah.
Just a soft stone that's been pretty easy to carve into.
Sandstone can be quite hard, but and then there's like the Luss cliffs in all over the American Midwest, but also in China. There's been like for thousands of years people have lived in these cliffs, but it's made of Luss, which is the ground up rock flour that blows off of glaciers. So it's incredibly fine and super, super soft. And if there's even a mild earthquake, you can end up with a lot of people buried alive, which is bad. But people have lived in that environment for thousands of years, and they die and they keep building there because it's easy. It's just hundreds of meters of very soft, diggable stone. But this looks like probably sandstone or, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's very heavily eroded again. And I mean, if we're still in Slovenia in the Two Rivers, then this, I assume, is limestone. But limestone and sandstone can coexist. So I'm a bad geographer.
I kind of assumed that a lot of it was carved out by natural processes, and they just carved some doors and holes in it for access and windows and stuff like that.
Which totally fits with limestone country. Okay. Like, for sure. Because limestone and caves is like a whole thing.
Gotcha. Yep.
And maybe the Ogier helped. I don't know.
Does not look Ogier built.
No.
So there's a whole conversation about the dream. Moraine says dreams are important,
and dangerous. And yeah, this is just Rafe being like, we are having the world of dreams. Do not at me.
And I wonder if they're going to keep telling her about their dreams. That could be a theme where
I doubt it.
Well, they're certainly not near her, so they can't really at this point.
Yeah. Rand yells at her.
Yeah,
that's fun. Their confrontation. I think that she's starting to wonder if it's him. Like, she wonders if it's Egwene, but Egwene might just be a girl channeler. But this guy is the one fighting back the most. And I think she's starting to wonder, like, is the ginger the one?
The red hair has always been a clue,
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's pushing himself to the top of her list when he pushes back like this.
Well, they didn't actually kill either of those two people. Nynaeve's still alive, and Perrin killed Layla.
Yeah, so clearly she's going to be a great match for Gawain because she just believes whatever. I'm sorry, Egwene. I didn't mean it.
There is also a bit of lore that I found in the X-ray that said that Aes Sedai can pull strength from their warders when they're sick.
I did see that. Which helps a lot explaining
Yeah.
what's up there. For sure. Yeah, and there's also the conversation with in the woods that they had also brings forward a lot of the conversation she has with Nynaeve explaining stuff. Again, they compressing the story. Egwene is taking on a lot of the lifting that Nynaeve did in early conversations with Moraine, where Moraine only had Nynaeve to talk to. Egwene's getting some of those conversations. But what I want to talk about with her here, aside from the fact that I need her coat so badly, is that when she turns around, do you notice the color of the things tying her hair? There. What's tying her hair?
Well,
can you describe that for the audience?
That would be well. You can see it. That's why we're on YouTube. It's a bunch of red, blue, green tassels. It looks like just multicolored tassels with the rainbow.
The red and blue was what struck me particularly. She's got a very strong red-blue ties in her hair, which Amerlin bringing together the White Tower that is divided by the red and blue parties.
Just some symbolism. Yeah, there's definitely some color there.
She's definitely not already destined to be Amerlin, clearly, off the bat.
But are those ties just like from the ceremony? Are they still on there from all that time later?
I doubt it. I bet she's rebraided her hair. But it could be the pack of hair ties that she was sent off with, that your mom picked up at Rite Aid, for sure.
Gotcha.
Harsh words between young lovers.
Oh, yeah, and I see Bella much more brown there on the end of that horse line.
Mm-hmm. And then Matt, of all people, is like, don't be an ass. Again, the lines that Matt is being given to bring to the party, it amazes me that all this stuff is given to Matt, of all people. It's so ironic and wonderful.
I mean, it takes one to know one. Don't be an ass. I've been an ass. Don't be one.
Yeah, it's like, you're doing the me thing. Don't do the me thing. And then we get the line from him about the lady does shoot fireballs, which we got from that very first table read.
Yes, right.
That was the very first table read, which I think every other line there doesn't make it into the final cut, but that line did.
Yeah, that line did. That was a good line. It's funny to go back and look at the table read and know now, having seen that first episode, and be like, oh, okay, like what the lines the characters had, who they are, what they look like, all of that.
So cool.
So they obviously catch up.
Love these woods.
Quick. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lan stays behind and keeps the party together. Mm-hmm. I mean, she needs them to come along, but where else are they going to go? She doesn't have to convince them. She just has to give them nowhere else to go by leaving.
And he scouts ahead. Well, sorry, he's been scouting ahead. He sees the White Cloaks coming and does come back to warn them.
Yes.
Yeah. Not with
random fortuitous encounter in the woods. It's very inconvenient.
They must have a supply train somewhere, because I don't see any of their caravans or anything with them.
Yeah. Maybe they're just on a patrol, because the White Cloaks do that.
And the camp is still set up.
Yeah. Also, we talk about the lady from a fallen house. That's our first hint into what her backstory is, because she can't lie. Therefore, House Damodred is a fallen house, which it basically is in the books. I think they might be making it a little more fallen in the series than in the books, but you're going to have to simplify Deus Daemar for TV.
I mean, Laemon was king and now they're not, so they could fall from king to not king.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, they're in ill repute. They still have power and wealth, but they're in ill repute. So it's the
Damodreds in Kyrian are not well thought of.
No.
And then Tom kills them.
Because they deserve it.
Yeah. Well, I guess I always get that confused. Tom kills the king, not the Damodred.
Oh, yeah. They're all assholes.
That would be funny. God, that would be hilarious if Tom killed Damodred, because then he would have killed two men close to both of the women he got with.
Trying to make that a pattern, buddy boy.
Please stop killing your girl's relatives.
Yeah. Jealousy much? Though in fairness, they're always deadly people, so.
Doesn't Jordan also write the series called Blood of the Fallen? Wasn't that his original series?
I don't follow non-Wheel of Time Jordan works. It's
fair enough.
Not my jam.
I thought it would be a funny reference to a house of a fallen house.
But it's Falon or something.
Falon.
It's misspelled.
It's not spelled the same, but it's sort of a misspelling. Anyway, that would be a funny little nod if that was deliberate, but I doubt it.
I doubt it.
So yeah, this whole conversation with Bornhold, who seems to be a relatively reasonable guy, other than having Valda in his ranks.
And giving him unfettered access to do whatever he wants. Yeah, he seems perfectly reasonable, aside from, allowing Nazis to do their thing. Mm-hmm. It's fine.
He's got the 3 golden, looks like 3, maybe 4 golden knots to say he's a captain commander for 3. 4 is probably Lord Captain Commander.
Right. Why does she say to be as truthful as you can when going up to talk to them? Why does she say that?
Oh, because if they get caught in a lie, that the White Cloaks will prosecute them. The second they catch you in a single lie, they're gonna come after you. So
okay, I thought that there was maybe they have I don't know. I was just, it seemed like these aren't Aes Sedai. Okay, it's just that they'll take any pretext to just commit crimes against humanity and acts of terror.
Yeah, that
checks out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't get much of Perrin confronting the White Cloaks, right? Because I feel like in his first confrontation with the White Cloaks, he had the yellow eyes, and they noted that. Right,
but that's also after they meet the Tinkers.
Yeah.
This is when his first confrontation with the White Cloaks happens. So
right, this is a wholly invented encounter.
Because they need to give more context to Valda, I think is a big part of... They need to introduce who the White Cloaks are outside of Valda and give Valda a connection to the Aes Sedai, which is, I think, why they put this scene in. Because they don't learn... Our party doesn't learn anything useful from this exchange at all. Mm-hmm. But it's creepy how Valda just walks up and jingles his keys and then gets carte blanche to do whatever he wants. And also, with the manhandling of Moraine, they're really setting him up to be a rapist later.
Yeah. Well, and the whole power dynamic there. She's a noble lady, and he's still just oh, yeah, I can still put my hands all over you, no problem. Right? There's a power
even with your bodyguard
there.
There.
Yep. The White Cloaks know that they are a power in this world.
And they wouldn't have been able to get away with that in the books. I don't think. This is, again, their menace and their threat is really amped up.
Just her smile and her, I don't know.
She's so good.
She's so good. Rosenpike has that great, ironic smile. Just so good.
Yeah.
I saw a lot and I care a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything more to say about this encounter?
The telling her to go get Aes Sedai help.
Yes.
Really un-White Cloak-like thing to do. Very Bornhold, very not White Cloak.
So he says Whitebridge is where, first of all, canonically gives us the town of Whitebridge and gives us a chance.
And she said she was trying to go there, so yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But yes, continue.
Yeah. So, but he's not pointing out, we encountered an Aes Sedai, you should go see her. He was just there's probably one in the big town.
Yeah, but the fact that he says, go find an Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
That's not a thing that White Cloaks would say in the books. The White Cloaks would say, let me chop your arm off for you. It's better than getting healed by an Aes Sedai. This is... But again, making them not only more threatening, but more complex. They are less cartoonish and less two-dimensional. Bornhold is there's political realities, and I know that the world isn't black and white. Valda's got this distorted goblet view over here, but I am a normal person who simply aids and abets in war crimes.
It's just so weird that literally the rings of the women, he's chopped off their hands and killed these Aes Sedai. And he's oh yeah, go get an Aes Sedai while I'm standing next to this guy. It's a very dissonant, what is your goal? And you were clearly in the camp with the Aes Sedai who was being tortured and killed.
Yeah,
right?
it's...
Or is that is that the questioners having a separate camp and he had no idea?
Maybe. I mean, because he does say we have a questioner with us today. So I don't like this unless we simply have to wait for more context that makes this all fit together, which I absolutely trust as an option. Yeah. But I don't think so because it's an inserted scene.
Right. And it's a shame that Valda killed a yellow because Moraine could have really used a yellow at that moment.
Yeah. Oh, in chat, Luke Blightwalker is saying that Bornhold was in that camp because the boy says compliments from Bornhold when he delivers the bird.
Yeah. Well, he says compliments from the Lord Captain. but that means that could have been sent from a different camp.
It seems unlikely to send a songbird from camp to camp.
Yeah.
It seems more likely that they were all in the same camp together.
And that is Bornhold's camp. Yeah.
That checks out. So yeah, he simply aids and abets in crimes against humanity. He's a good guy.
It does make that comment very weird, though.
Yeah. But other than that, that's all I have to say for this, other than thank goodness they're all going in different directions from this point.
Well,
I also love when Valda's like, yeah, you go fight battles. I have a higher purpose known as torturing people. And
he heads south, which means he's hunting the
Aes Sedai?
Because that's where they're heading. Because they're heading... we talk about the Aes Sedai heading south to fight Loghain and the war in Gildan. So that's where he's heading for his own little battle. So I assume Moraine's encountering Loghain and that group... She's going to run into Valda again, this time as Aes Sedai, and he's going to be like, I knew you were lying to me. See?
And then she's going to be like, well, I know you murder people, so let's get it on.
Right.
Because she says, like, he's not the only one who saw a face he won't forget today, because she sees 7 rings on his belt and is like, yeah, it's that sadistic serial killer motherfucker. Because he's basically a serial killer walking around in plain sight, as far as the Aes Sedai are concerned.
Totally.
Well, as far as any decent person is concerned.
So this is the whole explanation of how she told the truth the whole time to him while actually lying through the teeth.
Yeah. More of that how to Aes Sedai lesson for Egwene, because they're kind of up at the front of the party. She's not giving the lesson to everyone. Yeah. And then, are we going to talk about the song? Or we're not there yet. Oh, these ruins.
Quite there yet. Yeah. So these ruins, look more like an aqueduct to me, to be perfectly honest.
It's either an aqueduct or a road.
Yeah.
I have a hard time telling the difference. It's got very Roman energy, for sure.
Because I see, if you look at it, looks like there's rails on either side that are pretty consistent. They don't have like any gaps in them, so I would think that would be a water channel. But you're right, it could be either. It could definitely be an elevated road.
It's the same basic technology either way, so.
But it does look like they're walking around along an old riverbed, right? Because that went underneath the bridge. Or at least an old road that went through there. So that could have been a major crossroads at some point.
And I mean, if it's stone, this could be a straight up Age of Legends ruin, because stone weathers very, very slowly. So this could be like there literally was a river here and now it's gone because, the entire elevation of the plateau changed.
Well, I do want to reference, how when they dropped off the bird and he said compliments from the Lord Captain, the subtitles have it wrong because it says compliments from the Lord, Captain. But it's supposed to be Lord Captain as one word. And so that threw me off because I was reading the subtitles and I was like, wait a minute, Lord, Captain? No.
It's like conversation, travel montage, conversation, travel montage.
Yeah.
Like
we're making progress.
You know how the part of this goes.
Time is passing. Days are passing.
Days are passing. Yeah.
We've lost the Trollocs at the river. We're going on to the. We're traveling towards our location. At least a day. It's hard to really. I would actually say it's all one day. I think. I don't think they sleep again.
Yeah. The progression of her injury sort of limits how many days could be happening.
Exactly.
Also, they don't have that many resources, so they can't be on the road for weeks and weeks. So.
And they don't really appear to be doing any active hunting or anything like that. It is good to remember Manetheren, even though you don't.
There's so much to love about that.
I love the tone. I love the music. I love Perrin hitting the low notes to start out those things. That song.
I love that they
really won me over.
I love that they sing in harmonies. I love that this is clearly a song that they've all sung so many times, and their community is musically inclined enough that everyone knows their part according to their register, and they all know, even though they're all despondent, they can all kick into it because they've been doing it forever. I love that Rand is doing the percussion; he's beating the time on his leg. I love Perrin starting the refrains with his beautiful bass. I love that Matt looks at everyone and is like, we need some morale around here. Bannerman, play us a marching song.
Matt's the guy in the car who reaches for the radio first. Like...
And then Egwene is the first one to kick in with him because she's like, you're right, we do need some cheering up. Like, let's do this. And then I love Lan looking around being like, oh, you kids have some actual, like, backbone I can recognize. Like, I know the story of Manetheren. You remember that to some extent. Like, he's clearly reassessing them. And Moraine is brooding and down in the dumps as much as the rest of them. And she's like... The old blood does run strong. This is good. Also, chance for me to give an expositional story dump, which Rafe and Rosamund absolutely fought for and
so
nailed.
happy.
And
I mean,
we needed that scene. Otherwise, I don't know.
From Manetheren, right? Like that song. You and I literally got Kate Redding to read that because we needed to hear it in Moraine's voice. So like that was super important to you and me. And obviously, it was very important to Rafe and very important that Rosamund deliver that speech, I think, in the show. I think that's
and then she
went
and did the audiobook.
Yeah. I gotta say, I still prefer Michael Kramer, Kate Redding. Rosamund Pike is doing a much more straight reading of it. She's not doing as much voice work as she's more reading it as Rosamund Pike. And I love it, but it doesn't have... Michael Kramer and Kate Redding have been my audiobook readers for such a long time. It's going to be hard to break that. I do love them, but...
Yeah, I have no real interest in it. I wonder... I know how much she loves the character. I wonder if she had done the audiobook or considered doing it before they filmed this scene or not. I'm really curious where the audiobook recording falls with respect to the filming of this scene.
It seems to be a more recent thing, because she did say she was, like, working on the audiobook relatively recently. Like, right before it came out.
Yeah.
So, I get the feeling that was a much more, maybe like an in-between seasons. Although they didn't really take a break.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, this whole sequence is wonderful. And I've heard, apparently, like, every other person has made a cover of this at this point. And I've heard one, and it was really cool. I'm very excited to hear all of them and have people just bust this out at cons and stuff. Like, it's going to be so cool. And all the bases had better know where to come in for their parts. I'm just saying. Perrin has set the standard.
I've been working on Tom's song. I recorded myself singing that and listened back to it. And it wasn't as bad as most of my singing, because it is sort of an atonal song. I actually, like, obviously I was terrible, but, like, you know, I listened to it, I was like, okay, that's something I wouldn't mind singing in a group with a bunch of people. Like, I feel like I could hold my own in that situation. Unlike with, I feel like the Emmons Field 5 here and the Manetheren song, that I don't feel like I wouldn't feel comfortable holding the notes because it is so much harmony. Just thought. Anyway, obviously I love the music. I've spent as much time thinking about the music as I have about anything else, because it's surprisingly caught me. And the in-world music has caught me even more than the background emotional music.
When she talks through the story, the cuts to the faces of the relative characters are fucking spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Consumed them. But Eldrine had drawn more of the One Power than any woman could ever hope to wield, and it burnt her right through from the inside out.
That's cruel, Rafe. That's cruel.
It's so
That's
cruel. It hurts.
That was just a mean,
so much.
mean shot. I mean, when he talks about nods to readers, that, like, no one, like...
He's just grabbing our heads and
just
doing this to us.
Placed directly on your head. This is...
Yeah, but... Yeah, and then he's got the part about, like, the battle and how it ends, and Matt looking around like it's tickling something at the back of his mind, like, about this battle and how it went, and it's just like, he's interested in battles. Battles interest me. Yeah.
And then I like this shot because it gives us a chance to breathe with the characters. Everything has been so frantic. The first episode, we talk about the pacing, the winter night, then they've been fleeing, then the thing, then the dream, and here everyone's just like, oh, yeah, that's pretty. Give me a second. Like,
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It lets them look out over their home. I'm assuming that they're looking back across. Oh, no, this is dawn.
I think they're looking forward.
And they're looking at the sun. So they're looking where they're about to go. They're looking out across. That makes more sense, actually, that they are looking out at what's going to happen. Oh, God. The colors in that shot are so pretty. And also, Rand, dawn is a thing.
No, she says we can't go there, and he changes the topic.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that he's just making a contingency plan against her wishes because that's his job. And then when he mentions, you need to get healed, she turns away. I don't think she's expecting to survive this.
Really? You think she's
because she turns away. He changes the subject and brings up how injured she is, and she's like, and just.
Nice.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, her not surviving that, I could see that being something she had planned for, or just assumed. Like, once she got stabbed, she's like,
I think,
them, you know?
Yeah, I think she's assuming that, and she doesn't want to hope too much. And then, so this scene, first of all, I really hope we get the conversation between Rand and Tam, wherein Rand acquires his sword. Because this is our first shot of him, like, really having the sword on his hip, but we never saw Tam give it to him, and it's... Come on, flashbacks. Come on,
yeah.
Flashbacks.
Oh, I am 100% convinced we're getting flashbacks. Because, again, there was a Reddit AMA from Rafe, last night that I read. And he said, someone asked, like, you know, is there an extended version of the Two Rivers? And he's like, no, I wish, but, you know, we couldn't film a lot of extra stuff. And I'm like, well, but we know you filmed more, right? So you know there's more in there. And if it's not extras, it has to be flashbacks.
Yeah.
So I'm convinced 100% there's flashbacks coming.
Cool.
Yeah, this argument between them is rough. This is him being a bit of a stubborn butthead, and
all of this is going to come back to bite him when she's looking at him as a man who can channel.
Yep.
This whole thing's going to play through both their heads, and it's going to hurt.
And they're hurting each other here. They love each other, but they're hurting each other, and that's rough.
And she points out, like, I'm dealing with the fact that Nynaeve got killed right in front of me, and you aren't even letting me have the credit of the fact that I'm dealing with Nynaeve being killed. Like, it's... Oh, God, they're hurting each other so much.
And then this is the first shot of Perrin's leg that we get, right? That we find out that it's been infected?
No, the fire scene with Egwene before included that. This is us checking in with it. Yeah, it's getting worse.
Gotcha. And
this is when we get this weird wolf encounter.
I mean, I got to assume Hopper, Dapple, Burn, Scar, right? Those are
definitely.
Yeah,
this is the pack.
The pack.
Which wolf do you think licks his leg? Is it Dapple or Hopper? Because I want to say Hopper, but also Dapple's the leader of the pack.
I mean, they're certainly concerned about him.
Right, and it could be that Hopper's like, Dapple, I want to go forward, and she's like, fine, do that. Also, why is he closing his eyes? Is he just resigning himself to being mauled by a pack of wolves?
No, I think he's hearing them.
Okay, the first time I watched it, I thought one thing. The second time, I was convinced the other way. Like, okay. It looks like Hopper to me.
Me too. I love Perrin. I had to play the whole sequence. I love Perrin. I love the wolves. You know, I'm a big dog fan. Jim Brewer.
So, I have a question that I have strong opinions about how I think you should answer it. Does the Lego licking make him a wolf brother? Are they going to do that?
No.
Or are they... Okay,
he's a wolf brother before. That's what the whole ringing thing is.
That's what it is canonically. Yeah. I just... The leg lick, I'm just like, you aren't going to make werewolfism like a bloodborne illness, are you? That's bullshit. Okay, cool. I'm glad that you agree with how this is going.
I think that they've clearly approached him because they're hearing his thoughts and know that he's in pain. And so they're hearing his thoughts beforehand, which makes him a wolf brother before they lick his leg.
Cool. Good. This is the second time that Egwene has responded to the proximity of a Murdral.
Well, they do say learning to channel does help you with that. And being able to channel does help you with that.
And she felt it the first time before the whole channeling thing, but it's happening again. I think she's very sensitive because she's a very strong channeler.
Yeah, but that's his contingency plan. She's out. He's got no way to fight.
She's completely out.
Yeah, she's completely out. He's got no way to fight all these Trollocs by himself. He's got a bunch of woolheads, and yeah, it's literally... they might die in Shadow Logoth, but they're definitely going to die if they don't go to Shadow Logoth.
Yeah. Yeah, she's like, you've killed us all. And he's like, yeah, but 4 hours later, then we would have been killed. So...
and which was enough time to get you, up and going. Well, I guess it wasn't really enough time.
Not really.
Not really. No.
Not really. He is at the end of his rope and he has no good choices, and none of the choices he makes end. So I feel really bad for him. At the end of this episode, he has failed every single mission he has. And then what saves his ass? Nynaeve. Yep. So that's cool. But yeah, I'm glad he has this contingency plan. I like the fact that he's disobeying her in order to protect her.
And so people were asking, like, where did the Trollocs and Myrddraal go after they go into the city? And, like, they could be around. The city's huge. They're coming out of it at random points. There's no way for the Fades and Trollocs
I was wondering about that, but he gallops the horses out through the gate they came in. You'd think the Trollocs would have stayed camped at that side. I don't. I'm not pleased with that sequence of events, but timing is one of the things that fantasy movies have to really fuck with.
Yeah.
So.
So yeah. Oh, and then this is terrifying with the Trollocs really running in the forest.
And Egwene with Aldib.
Which horse do you think gets eaten?
One of the boys' horses.
Mm-hmm.
Probably like Cloud, Like, I hate to say it, but probably Rand's horse.
Rand's horse. That's what I thought too. And it does seem odd that the Myrddraal can't drive them into the city, because in the books they can.
But it takes a while, though.
That's true. I thought they were just further behind. Yeah.
Well, no, Fane tells us the story of that in Faldara, and there was a flickering presence with red eyes driving the Myrddraal to drive the Trollocs. So It totally makes sense that they run up, and just like at the ferry, they're like, but then the dark flexes its might and is like, no, you're going in there. Except in this version, it doesn't have to. It just has to wait for the other dark to flush them out, and for some reason, the Trollocs happen to all be waiting at different mouse holes.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, that would be interesting to find out more about, but I'm okay with it not being ever explained. Like, it's a big enough city. I assume you just pop out at a place where there's not enough Trollocs to surround the whole city. That's good enough of an explanation for me.
Yeah, it'll do.
So, in we go. You said you like that one of the things they did with this is create a wall with no gates in it for the city?
I love that piece of world building. Because it's not in the book, but it's so in character with that city. Also, like, what's with this line? Like, what giant with a laser beam or a saw came through? I feel like humans could have just broken through the bottom. Why does the crack go all the way up?
Channeling.
Yeah, it looks like a huge laser beam cut through it, and it's channeling. Okay, that, because I was like, the technology doesn't channeling is the technology.
Well, I mean, I don't think it would be an earthquake, because it would have just either fallen.
An earthquake would have damaged many other things. Yeah. This looks like a laser beam, which it's a die.
Yeah, just like someone took air and busted through.
Yeah, totally. Or melted a really thin line. I don't know. It's too straight to just be weathering.
Yeah.
Like, clearly a weathering is now the dominant feature, but the initial crack can't be weathering. That just doesn't make sense.
Whether or not you want it to make sense.
And then the next thing I have to note is that every bit of dust under their feet is dead people, dead animals.
It's like sand on the ground.
And it struck me when we go in and they told us to listen that that's all you hear. And then when you see the horse dissolve into more of the same, you're like, they're walking across the ashes of life. Like, cursed death ashes. Like, this is so nasty. I love it.
And can we talk about how like the walls of Shadow Logoth are all stained with the black soot that like it's blown around in there, that like it's the entire city is stained with it.
Yeah. And everything's made of stone.
Yeah, the set design's so good. Just harsh angles, and the statues are forbidding, angry people, and the atmosphere.
It reminds me a lot of Paris. The wedge-shaped buildings, which you find in a lot of European-style American cities as well as European cities, wedge-shaped buildings, pie wedge-shaped buildings, and then also the building they go into, which is described as a temple, if I recall correctly from the metadata of the pictures. It looks like Notre Dame. It looks like a cathedral. It's got very, Gothic architecture. I mean, I'm not an architecture buff by any means, but this whole thing, it gives me serious creepy Paris vibes and Notre Dame vibes.
I can see the inspiration taken there.
Yeah. Wedge-shaped buildings always trip me out. I'm so delighted to see them in this design.
Because they do look weirdly like two-dimensional sometimes if you catch them from the right angle.
Yeah. But that's just a really normal European city design. But yeah, it's so sooty. It's so dirty. The city used to be white.
Right.
And now it's gray.
It looks like a London city during the Industrial Revolution that's just pumping out coal and stuff like that. But instead of coal, it's like the ashes and blackness of the souls of the damned that used to live there.
Yeah. But it's also totally the opening sequence of Disney's animated Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's totally what this looks like. But I've actually been to Notre Dame, so when I say it looks like Notre Dame, I say that having physically visited one time.
That shot right there. That's very Notre Dame. Yep.
And someone pointed out that the lattice work across the whole city is like eyes. So you've got that creepy eyes looking down at you energy just in the set design.
Love it. Yeah.
Oh my God. They care so much. They do everything. I mean, they make some mistakes, but they're human. It's okay.
I wouldn't even say mistakes so much as there are constraints. You can't do everything.
They make choices I disagree with. Those are mistakes.
Some of them certainly are. Some of it might just be getting the right actors in the right place at the right time and budget constraints and
But the eyes, you can't you can't put in a tickle in the back of your head in cinematography. You can put in lattice work that's
creepy as fuck.
But this is such a cathedral. I mean, just add a pews, right? Add a temple or an altar up at the front.
Yep. Altar?
Yeah, it's
an altar.
Altar, organ, whatever.
Sure. I love Daniel Henney when he used to complain about carrying the Rosamund dummy. I assume that's a Rosamund dummy. That's
yeah, this is all got to be Rosamund dummy.
He's like, it's just as heavy as she is, but she can't
But if you drop it, it's okay.
Yeah. So they're all trying to figure out what's going on. And we don't
the place is just falling apart.
Oh, it's totally falling apart. And we don't get the whole Moraine sets up a barrier and says don't leave, don't wander off. None of that happens. They do say don't touch anything, which of course Matt violates, but
yeah, but it's because Moraine is totally out. She told Lan not to come here. Yeah. This is him being I can either kill us now or kill us later. Yeah. That's literally the only choices I have.
Yeah, Moraine in the books made a conscious choice to go in here to rest and knew she could protect them and then leave in the morning. And it was only the forcing of the Trollocs into the city that forced them to leave. It was the Trollocs themselves that were the threat that forced them out, as opposed to this one where it's the Mashadar forces them out, and they have no protection from it whatsoever.
Yeah, which, I mean, I think the idea in the books, right, is that she can put up a ward that keeps Mashadar out, so they would have been fine from the Nightly Scourge. The only problem is the Trollocs. So yeah, they had to reorder everything about this, and Moraine is pissed.
Yeah, and also she has no ability to stop. It doesn't seem like she has any ability to stop Mashadar and create a ward. We have nothing about wards.
Well, she's completely passed out at this point. I mean, she has no capacity to do anything except tell Lan that he fucked up. They eat only the food you brought, because the Fae are going to show up and offer you fake food, and then you'll end up stuck in Fae land.
Well, what's funny is the Aes Sedai are actually more Fae than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't encounter Ordeath, so they don't even get taken in by a trickster who can create illusions at all.
Do they or don't they encounter Ordeath?
Well,
that's a question.
I'm just saying, they don't encounter a person who talks to them and offers them things. So, like, Lan clearly doesn't know what dangers there are, and he's just covering his bases. He's like, there's a lot of things that might happen. I don't know what to warn you against. I think they actually do encounter Ordeath.
Yeah.
I actually do.
Well, there's a shadow and a whistle.
Exactly. And I think, okay, cool. Yeah. I like that they go wandering around, exploring, like all of them do. I think it's hilarious that Rand and Egwene just go wandering off. I mean, granted, just to the building across the street, but still, it's like the dangers are described differently than they are in the books. They're not less, they're just different.
Yeah, across the street, you get that, like, the statues are the things that just seem the weirdest.
Yeah.
Again, Doctor Who vibes with, like, don't look or don't look away.
Oh, yeah, with the weeping angels.
Weeping angels.
Yeah,
like, I get a very weeping angel from that statue.
Yeah. It's also very, like, Roman and very, like, pagan. There's so much weird old energy in that. And there's at the very end, when the dark comes out after Mat and Rand, there's a bit of tile work that gets illuminated on the wall, which made me think, looking at these statues, about how Roman statues were actually painted. We think of them as white statues, but actually they were painted quite gaudily, and were very, very colorful and bright. And so because of that tile work on the outside of
the black white eyes had the irises painted on them, and like they looked like eyes. They didn't look like that blank white thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to imagine that this city was not all stark white, right? It's like first it became all white because the paint washed away. Then it became ashy. But before that, these would have probably been painted like Roman statues.
He's giving us a couple of moments to breathe in this episode between frightening moments, right? And also giving them a chance to sort of reconnect and make up and be like, okay, I'm sorry I said harsh words. It doesn't mean we're together anymore, but they're not angry at each other anymore.
Yeah. Also, the hand grabbing here was backwards from how I caught it from the trailer. She's accepting distance, and then he reaches out and is like, I do still love you as a friend. I thought it was the other way around completely, and I was wrong. But, this shot.
I don't know why it looks so good, but it just does. So it gives you the idea of the depth of the city.
Because it's a broken down old European city, just decaying from gravity alone. There's no plants, there's no people. It's just weathering on its own material weakness, and it's sunset, so it's beautiful.
Okay, moving forward. This approach where he kicks all the tiles out of the way and makes a shit ton of noise in a quiet city, very Matt. The theater it laughed. This got one of the hardest laughs of the theater. The entire first two episodes was this scene where he walks over there and kicks a bunch of tiles. Like it was. It
made me laugh when I watched it the first time, and every time since.
And then
the dagger,
which it's got Layla's little symbol there, that Y, which I wonder if that could be significant.
I assume we're going to see it later and have it be significant in some way.
Keep an eye on that maker's mark. I think that could be significant. Perhaps Perrin encounters a hammer or an axe that was made and sold outside the Two Rivers, made by his wife, and picks it up. That would be interesting. But yeah, we get, also, by the way, I want that knife. I want to be able to buy that knife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes, please.
But yeah, so first, I mean, Matt gives away a dagger. And then the very next thing he does is he goes and gets another dagger. Like, the fact, I mean, this is entirely an inserted scene, obviously.
Yes.
But it works so well, the fact that he picks up a dagger in his next scene, which is canonical.
Yep. And then later he brandishes the dagger outside of Shadow Logoth. So they don't it's very subtle, but when he does brandish a dagger, I think at Tom, it is the Shadow Logoth dagger.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Tom.
Yeah, it's very subtle, but that's the dagger.
Yeah. Yeah. But this conversation also, the reason it's here is to give Lila her lost Lenore elements and to give Perrin his philosophy in a much more neatly packaged version than we got in the books. Which I appreciate. Honestly, his whole philosophical struggle is really drawn out and confusing, and this is like... I appreciate how direct it is, even if I don't know how I feel about it being brought up so early.
I think it's...
I don't know.
I like it. I like it because
think
it's all
I like
about...
it.
Because the hammer versus axe and the fact that she only made things that were tools but could also be used as weapons, right? She says you'll use this dagger 1,000 times for cutting wood or an apple or something like that before you ever use it in self-defense. And it's like, yes, she makes tools, but she knows and understands that they can be used as weapons. And we saw her do that with the hammer, and it's just going to take Perrin a while to get there, I think.
Yeah. So it's nice that they're speeding that up, even though it feels a little rushed, to be like, wow, the big revelation from Perrin's philosophical arc is like, okay, episode 2. I guess we'll get that.
It's
right
also
now.
interesting that Matt is the one giving it to him. I mean, it's technically Layla's giving it to him, but Matt's the delivery device there.
Yeah. I mean, Matt is the kind of person who does understand these things at a level that Rand doesn't, so it makes more sense for him to give that to him.
I would think more like Egwene or something like that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think maybe it's just because they wanted the thing with the dagger.
Yeah.
And it's good closeness between them. It's good, like, these are actual friends. Because sometimes in the books you wonder, like, why are these 3 even friends? This interaction shows you that they are really friends. And I like that Perrin takes it and thanks him for it and doesn't try to get all weird about it. And then he reassures Matt in return about his sisters.
About his sisters. That the parents are going to take care of them and everything.
Because he's looking at Matt being like, you're comforting me, but there's also something weighing on you. And offers comfort in return. And lets us know that he does still have parents and the Luhan. And no, does he say the Luhans? Who does he say is going to look into them? I feel like he mentions 4 parties.
He says your parents. He doesn't say Luhans, but he does say to Perrin, your parents are going to check on them, who we'd never met. And he says,
and Rand's
parents and Egwene's.
He says, my parents, Rand's parents, and Egwene. Well, Tam and Egwene's parents. So only 3 parties.
Yeah, Rand's and Egwene's too.
But it's interesting. It's like, yeah, we all know that your family's struggling. We're all watching it happen. We're all aware of it. We're doing what we can. Like, that's just what our families do because we're all friends.
I've seen it though. There's some, especially with domestic problems.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to step in and make a difference from the outside.
Right, but they're like, he's saying, like, now that you're gone, I know that all these people are going to, like, force a little more help on the family than has been allowable before because you're gone. Like, it's heartbreaking.
It is. And I'm also willing to bet that the deterioration of their family life is a more recent thing. Because I think, based on Winter Night, that there's Bodwin died, or the middle sister died. We talked about that, and that sort of drove the father to drink, drove the mother to drink, drove the father to cheat, created a downward spiral, and that only happened like after the birth of the most recent girls. So it's only been like the last 4 or 5 years that their family has really declined. Is my assumption.
Yeah.
And so that's where you can like see that happening, but it can happen, behind closed doors and get most of the way there before it really becomes public and people realize just how far the family has fallen. And so that's where I think Moradin is affecting him.
No, more death.
I always do that, sorry.
It's like he's almost sleepwalking.
Or dreaming. Because that's the other thing. You think, oh, they wake up. Last time that happened, it was a dream sequence.
Oh, maybe he thinks it's a dream.
There, that shadow right there.
Yep.
There, the shadow of somebody
that's
walking
the shadow of someone walking by. There's no person, just the shadow. Because they're a creepy ghost.
Now, someone said to listen for the whistle of Fane, in this scene, and so I wanted to listen for that.
So cool. I didn't hear a whistle, though.
No, I didn't either. The one thing I did notice is that the black starts as soon as he unsheaths the dagger. It's like it's waiting for him to get it, and then the second he pulls that out, it's like, okay, time for everybody to run.
I agree. And you see it creeping over his shoulder up on top of the ceiling, right, as he's pulling it. It's so yeah, the whispers are drawing him on for sure. They keep swelling, and then he does something, and then they swell again, and then he does the next thing. It's like they're in his head telling him to do it. The other interesting thing is it's how they find it looks like how they find the Bowl of the Winds, with random table legs and bits of rotted chests, right? In the books, he finds it on top of a pile of gold, like Aladdin, right? And he grabs it off of the pile. And
the pile, there's nothing special about the dagger in the books. Anything he took from that pile would have been similarly corrupting. It's just so happens that he took the dagger. It feels like here the dagger is something special that he was led to.
Yeah, and it's just, it's a totally different vibe. I kind of love it. I mean, I love the book version, but I like this version almost as much. And he doesn't say, let's make a deal.
No, that
line is either apocryphal or comes from elsewhere.
I think it comes from elsewhere, yeah. The deliberate editing that they've done in the trailers, where they took audio from one scene and visuals from another, they've done repeatedly. Like even here, when we see Perrin and Egwene jump in, like the screaming in the background, the screaming's from Winter Night, the dialogue is from this.
Yeah.
Which we suspected back then.
Very much so. Very, very much so. Wait, I have a note that says there's whistling at 48 minutes right before. Oh, okay. My note says I heard whistling right before Matt wakes up.
So let's go back. There it is.
There it is. So yeah, it's not right before he finds the dagger, it's right before he wakes up.
Yeah, Fane.
Yep.
So do we think Fane's in the city?
We have no idea what Fane's relationships to the Fade and Trollocs are. He seems much more his own agent in this telling, but maybe not.
I mean, we haven't seen him in episode 2 or 3.
That's true.
We just heard the whistling, so he could be anywhere. I mean, in the story, he's canonically following behind them. And he has to run the whole way, which is why he's lagging behind. And he doesn't catch up until Camelin. But he is forced into the city.
Maybe they send him in?
Or maybe he doesn't have the same, like, the Trollocs won't enter, but he will.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I'm glad I looked at my notes again. I forgot I have notes still. And yeah, so that whistle's very distinctly there.
And timestamps do help, by the way.
Cool. Okay, cool.
I can't get it down to the second, but I can get it within a second or two. So then we get the horse disintegrating there.
Horrifying.
Horrifying. Killing a horse always rough. Yeah.
Yeah. Does the horse die? Yes, the horse dies. Not all the horses. Most of the horses get out. And then also the poverty of Matt. Yeah, like I said before, like it's a gem that could buy a farm. He's currently down one farm. He actually needs a farm. So it makes so much sense with that, plus the whispers in his head, why he would grab it.
So the Evans Fielders come out to basically be like, what the hell is going on? The horse is screaming. And like at that moment, they're all in the same group, right? And then right here, there's a split. There's that half second. They all come down the stairs together, and then between those two cuts, Rand is on one side and Perrin and Egwene are on the other. and Rand ends up on the Matt side.
Yeah, and Egwene says, "What in Light's name?" It's funny how they hear the horses being disturbed because, obviously, and they just fucking bail. They don't have their stuff. Apparently, they have some of their stuff, but like they just leave Lan and Moraine inside. Like,
well, they can't get back inside.
It's pure reaction. It's just pure reaction.
Total reaction. Yeah, whatever's in their bags they don't have, whatever they don't literally have on their person at this moment.
Yeah, like Rand is really lucky he's got his weapons with him. But yeah, the darkness was waiting for them. Mm-hmm. And now Lan's like...
And then it retreats and Lan can get out, right?
I noticed that, yeah.
And then what follows is a sequence of it chasing them into various places in the city. I didn't have a lot to say about that.
No. The only thing I have, Aldib specifically is saved by the kids taking off. And then, at the end when Matt and Rand get out, I want us to stop and look at the tile work on the wall. But yeah, other than that, this is just a classic get out sequence. Not a lot to say about it. It's awesome, but
yeah,
I love his look of just like, no.
He doesn't say it though. In the trailer, he says no, but the trailer he said no.
They took that out, but his look says no.
His
entire face is a big
his
no.
His mouth said no. I think he actually said no. I think they just cut that audio out.
Yeah, he's probably mouthing it faintly because he's so terrified.
Yeah,
like I can live with that. And that's a long drop. That's the kind of drop that can break bones.
Yeah.
Like in the real world, you fall that far, it's like hitting concrete.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing where you really do have to be trained to jump from that height.
And not
hurt yourself.
That's a fantasy trope. Do not try that at home. That drop can very easily kill you.
There's a reason why jumping off a bridge is a death sentence. And it's not because you're hitting land.
Well, but no, that's the thing is it is like you're hitting land. It's
right. It's hard. Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's like concrete at that speed. It's very bad. But yeah, so when the darkness comes out from behind Matt and Rand, watch what it does on the wall.
A little bit before that.
I don't have a timestamp for that. I should have, but just they get out and then they turn around and watch it and watch that closely. Right there. Right there. Stop that right there.
Yep.
Look at the top corner. Look at that beautiful like subway wall tiling. The walls used to be covered in like a decorative tile work and most of it's fallen off and weathered away. But that little corner is still there. See that regular grid work of grout? Right above my head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know how like the Great Pyramids of Egypt, they're all rough stone now.
Yeah.
But they used to be coated in slabs of marble.
Oh, okay.
They used to shine white. And that was they looked very different when they were first put together. This reminds me of that. This wall was not always a rough stone. This wall used to be entirely decorated and coated, but it's been a very long time since anyone repaired it.
Didn't the pyramids also have a cap of gold?
I don't know, but I would not be at all surprised. That would be very in keeping with the people who built the pyramids and their entire sense of style.
So then they take the spray off of Saralogith like usual.
Bill Toman R.I.P. Yeah.
I mean, the spray is a log apparently in this world. Different times.
Yeah. Yeah, Lan's able to get out with the horses and Moraine, but he has lost all the kids and Moraine is dying, which is great. And Rand and the kids, I think, probably end up on very different sides of the wall when they get out.
I would almost say
which is part of why they can't find each other.
Yeah.
I mean, the city's we don't know how far they run. The city could be quite large, but it's movie timing, so they might have chased all through the city and just cut that out in editing.
Right, yeah, we don't really see how much, it's not necessary, but yeah.
No, it's not. They're clearly on different parts of the wall, which is yet another one from where Lan comes out.
Right, which is why I think, like, this is so big. The Trollocs, Lan, Egwene, Rand, all four parties are in different places, and they have no idea where the other one is. It must be a pretty big city.
Yeah.
And the river, well, do you think the river goes just on one side of it?
I think it's kind of like when you go straight through a roundabout.
Gotcha.
Right? You like hit it and go around and then only 180 degrees. That's what I assume from that panning shot of Matt and Rand after. When it looks out, it looks like the city is, like, one side is pushing into the river.
So the river kind of surrounds it on 3 sides, maybe even?
As much as, yeah, maybe. I'm thinking more like half, but who knows?
Yeah, Moiraine's dying.
And then Lana's like, everything's ruined until my future wife puts a knife to my throat, and it's hot.
And that's episode 2.
It's such a good ending.
Such a good ending. The reveal that Nynaeve's alive and back and has been tracking them, and the implications, and she's crossed Taryn Ferry, and
the sound of her voice, and the fact that Lan has no options at all, and it's her that saves him. I cannot.
So good.
And I haven't rewatched episode 3 yet. I am so excited for my first rewatch.
Yeah.
I think I might do that after we're done here, because such a bomb ending.
Yeah, this whole thing was so good. Episode 2 really just started to bring together a bunch of the episodes, elements of the Wheel of Time that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Well, this is the first episode that my husband watched because he was interested, not because he was placating me. You know, when he watched episode 1 just for me, and then he's like, "Oh no, I'm ready for episode 2." Nice. So this is the one where he was like, "No, I'm invested. We're going on to 3." Like,
did he enjoy 3?
This is good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if he's gonna like get on the rewatch train with me. I haven't actually asked him. I assume he doesn't want to, but he's gonna watch new episodes with me for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Again, this has just been a pleasure. We get so excited about this, and it's such a fun thing to go through.
2 hours, 20 minutes later.
Yep. So, we seem to hit at least 2 hours on these guys. I think we will get faster as we go on, and maybe there's less details to, right now everything's different and we can talk about anything, but we'll have hit on a lot of subjects in hopefully later episodes. We'll actually just be able to dig right into what's happening.
Yeah, but yes, thank you everyone for joining us so much. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media, rewatch Wheel of Time on Prime, write a good review for it, support us on Patreon,
good YouTuber.
Call your mom.
Wash behind your ears. And if you're over 50, get your prostate checked.
Just general PSA for everyone. And I think we can call that a wrap. This has been really fun. I'm loving these deep dives.
Me too.
Even if I can't keep up with chat, I at least get to talk to you.
Yeah, and there's so much that I like. I make assumptions when I'm watching this, and it's nice to have someone correct me on some of those, and just have a different POV, because I definitely miss stuff on my first watches.
We both do. This is super fun.
Which is great, which means there's so many details in there that we're not catching them all.
So many rewatches.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?